Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Second Floor Podcast. It's your co-host here, Kenny Buller, on the show to bring the one and only Eveline Charles on today's episode. For those of you who don't know, if you happen to be living under a rock, Eveline Charles is one of the most recognized names in the Canadian salon and spa industry, driven by the words of her favorite poem, "Think big and your deeds will grow." Eveline has grown her privately held business from a one-woman operation to a multi-million-dollar corporation bearing her name. You may have seen and heard Eveline Charles Salon, Eveline Charles Spas, Beauty, MD, and Eveline Charles Academy. Fun fact about Eveline Charles is she took one of her concepts of this luxury hand sanitizer that she made in 2016, brought that formula back in 2020 during this pandemic we've been living through, and has grossed a profit of $2 million in the process. This woman is relentless when it comes to ensuring that you pick up the pace and you continuously look forward and you do not give up in the pursuit of your passion. If there is anyone I could think of who embodies what Second Floor is all about when it comes to how to survive and thrive and keep the good vibes going, Eveline Charles is a perfect fit. She talks about her relentless approach when it comes to having a really solid fitness routine and why she believes every single person should continue to stay fit in some capacity. At the age of 67 years old, this woman has as much of or more energy than I do. And we talk about how her attention deficit disorder has not been a weakness in her life, but more so a strength. To recognize that she is this born-to-be entrepreneur. In her very first business growing up as a kid, she ended up grossing a total of $7,000 a month of profit, leading her to recognizing that she's meant to be in the business space. She recognized throughout those times that fashion and beauty is the industry that she wants to go into. She talks about how she got there. She gives us tips on how she's maintained a multi-million-dollar business growing up and throughout the evolution of what Eveline Charles is at today. She mentions that her academy is now turning into an international phenomenon online. And we also share the power of honing in on being so comfortable with yourself. I get very vulnerable in this episode, and I actually ask for relationship advice from Eveline. We talk a little bit about everything from business to her own advice in fashion, as well as learning about how she best prepared for several marathon runs that she has done, also qualifying for the Boston Marathon. There's so much to say about this woman. I'm just going to let you guys take a chance to digest everything that she says. I am honored to have Eveline Charles now in my corner and have her on the show. If you guys like this episode, please subscribe, share, comment. We are going to put this on all platforms where you can tune into podcasts, as well as visually on YouTube and TELUS On Demand Optic TV, baby. This episode of the Second Floor Podcast is brought to you by Shift by Alberta Innovates. Our province is a hotbed of innovation. Now, in Season 2, Shift's hosts Katie Dean and John Hagan put the spotlight on Albertan innovators working to improve the world, one ripple at a time. Here's a taste of the Shift podcast by Alberta Innovates.
Make Shift by Alberta Innovates your next podcast binge. Join us as we take a deep dive with the people that are driving Alberta's 21st century economy.
These global movers and shakers are working to solve today's challenges, create new opportunities, and build a healthy, sustainable, and prosperous future for Albertans today and for generations to come.
Just when you think you know all about Alberta, we're here to shift your perspective.
I don't know if I could stress this enough. We have a top 3 institution in arguably the most important technology technology in the entire world right now.
We will prove a lot of people wrong by coming out of this even stronger. And the way we will do it is by finding ways to help businesses be cash flow positive, and by willing to, find the ways that we can help.
We're just starting to scratch the surface. I mean, Calgary just this last month announced the fact that they broke their record again for venture capital investment. And some of this is in fintech, some of this is in a whole bunch of different areas where we originally didn't even have these types of core industries in Alberta.
We have diversification in our DNA. We just have forgotten about it.
Sincerely, we are blessed in Alberta to have all the infrastructure that we do have.
Tune into Shift by visiting shift.albertainnovates.ca or your favorite podcast app.
Wow. Well, welcome Eveline Charles, the one and only, to Second Floor Podcast. This is something that honestly, I would not have realized would be happening today. And your team reaching out and speaking with us, it was a no-brainer that we wanted to get you on. And I remember, Eveline, always growing up in the west side of Edmonton, the West Edmonton Mall would be like the go-to place for us as kids to hang out in. And every time I'd walk past your store and I'd look at Eveline Charles and I'd think there's got to be a person behind this company named Eveline Charles. And it'd be pretty cool to meet who that woman is. And that's why it's very surreal for me today to be sitting right beside you and having a conversation to learn more about you, your life, and how you got up into this point. So welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much, Kenny.
Yeah, no problem. I want to start off, Eveline, by asking you kind of an open-ended question that can go into a lot of aspects of your life. Okay. And I'd like for you to let us know, do you feel like when someone looks at you and aspires to be like you, especially females, do you believe from your experience that a lot of what it takes to be at your level of entrepreneurship is nurtured or natured? Is some of it where you just had it since you grew up, or you felt like you had to teach yourself a lot?
I had that in my character from the time I was young. I got kicked out of most classrooms because I had attention deficit, and I would dream of my businesses when I was sitting in the hallways.
When you were kicked out?
Yeah, I was kicked out of probably most classrooms because I had so much energy.
Yeah.
And to this day, I still have tons of energy.
I'm really glad, and I appreciate you sharing that, because when I think about my moments as a child, I also got kicked out several times.
Yeah.
To the point where teachers would go to me and they'd be like, did you take your medication today? And I'd be like, what medication are you talking about?
Yeah.
And I remember going to my mom and telling her, Mom, what medication should I be taking? Why do I keep getting kicked out of class? She'd be like, Kenny, you don't have to take any medication. You just need to learn how to channel your energy at the right time.
I never took medication either, and my son is exactly like me.
Yeah.
And I never put him on medication. I tried him, like the school said, you should put him on medication. I did a field trip with him at his school, and he was so dozy. I took him off all those medications.
For those listening to this that are similar to us, who, claim or self-diagnosed or have been diagnosed with ADHD, what advice can you give them as far as, like, throughout the many years you also have learned to channel it on your own? You didn't believe in the medicinal route of something that's suppressing that energy.
Yes.
What would be some tips you'd give that person to channel this in effectively?
For me, it's like if you're focused on and you enjoy something, like I lived my business because I enjoyed business, and fitness helped me too. Because, you can get rid of a lot of that energy through fitness.
Yep. No, it's so true. It's like if you're able to put your body and your mind through the certain challenges that fitness brings.
Yes.
I, for one, know that feeling, going into a workout and the feeling you get right out of it. It's like the same feeling we get when we walk our dogs, right?
When I was inducted into the Junior Achievement Alberta Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
I gave a speech on, if you're attention deficit, you're in business, you're attention benefit.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, because a lot of people that are in business have attention deficit. They do. There's a lot of people that have that. So I gave a whole speech on, if your kids are getting kicked out of school, then do something with them in business.
I like that approach. I find it gives the opportunity for someone like that to channel in on their creativity.
Yes, it does.
Right? Because your mind feels like it's racing a million miles an hour. And I'm starting to do my best now to recognize that when I do get distracted in those moments of work, what I can do quickly to pivot to something else. Like, do you find when you're working, Eveline, is it tough for you to finish something you start? Or are you good at starting and finishing something until you go into the next task?
I do. But sometimes my mind races, and, for me, it's been good for my mind to race, and I get a lot done in a day. And, I've always said business is my passion. It is.
And that's something that I noticed, because when you shared your story with me about how you started working at the age of 12 years old, and that was something where you were pretty much providing for your family and going into the age of 17, pretty much following your aunt's footsteps in entrepreneurship.
Yes.
The first business you ran, share with us, what is it that you learned in that business that had you not have done something that early on, Eveline Charles Academy wouldn't be where it's at today. Eveline Charles Spa and Salon wouldn't be at where it is today.
Yeah. So I started a restaurant when I was 17 because I wanted to do a clothing store or a restaurant. But I didn't have a lot of options at 17. So my cousin and I did a restaurant for probably 6 months, and we worked our butts off. We worked from probably 6 a.m. till midnight at night. We'd have to do all of our food prep, and we had seismic crews, and we made some good money. But, it was just not my passion. I always loved fashion and beauty, and
I can tell you look great, by the way.
Thank you. But it was not my passion, and I learned that if it's not your passion, I don't think you can do that.
I'm really glad you say that. And it's one of those things where that's why we're here today, right? Is we sit down with people who are extremely passionate about what they do. And, we've built up enough of a repertoire of guests, including yourself, who have shared that exact reason behind don't just do something where you feel like it's going to make you money.
Yeah. No.
It's just, I've been something on this lately where it's okay to be in that phase.
Yes.
Like if you want to learn how to run a business, start a business.
Yes.
You could be selling lemonade on the streets. You could be window cleaning homes.
Yes.
At the very least, first learn the operations aspect of it. And I can imagine you can agree where you probably were able to get the hang of the operation of a business, and then recognizing what you need to do for when it is something you're passionate about, you now know the steps it's going to take.
Yes.
To operate.
There's been a lot of steps in our business. So every time you make probably $1 to $5 million, you need to change your focus and how to run that business. And you need to learn, you need to stay ahead of the curve.
And when you share that, Eveline, it's really neat when you sit down with entrepreneurs and you ask them, how satisfied are you right now with where you're at? And you strike me as someone where you're like, okay, well, I became an entrepreneur because I'm never satisfied.
Yeah.
I want to keep growing what it is that we're a part of.
Yeah.
And I want to ask, what are some of the questions you find a business owner needs to ask themselves where they reach a point where there hasn't been enough significant change? And if that's something they're okay with, and I'll give you an example. I know someone personally who they're happy and they're satisfied with where they're at. They have their locations. They have several of them.
Yeah.
And now they're getting investors and they're getting other people who are sharing hey, this can be bigger. than where it's at right now. We can put you in grocery stores. We can put you overseas. And then they reach that point where they go, okay, well, this is already beyond what I would have expected.
Yes.
And now they're starting to get the opportunity to grow bigger. So what were some of the things that were going through your head, or what questions did you have to ask yourself when Eveline Charles started to expand into other avenues?
Yeah.
It became more than just a spa.
Yeah.
What were some questions you asked yourself? What went through your head?
Well, for me, it's we have always reinvented ourselves. So, whatever you start with is never going to stay static. You need to reinvent yourself probably every year or every couple of years. So we've reinvented ourselves so many times from the beginning. I started in my little hometown. I had 2 chairs in my first salon. And then when I went to beauty school in Edmonton, I used to drive home. I had set up my salon. I used to drive home and do everybody's hair. And that's how I supported myself through school.
Wow. How many chairs do you have now?
Well, a lot.
Yeah, there's several, right?
A lot. But, I think when I was 12 years old, that gave me a really great work ethic. And I thank my dad for that, because my mom answered a phone call, and it was a bill collector, and my dad was an alcoholic, but he was still a very good man. He was not abusive, nothing. He was a really good, but he just had a drinking problem. So then my mom answered the phone. I said, Mom, I can go get a job from my aunt. She had 3 businesses in town. She had the theater, she had IGA, and then she had a hardware store. So I went to see her, and she gave me a job right away. I cleaned her house, and then I worked in a popcorn booth at 12 years old. But my dad taught me how to become a fighter, and I still respect him. He was just such a kind man.
Yeah, when you have like such a good foundation of what family and support looks like, and despite their, troubles they personally have gone through, it's refreshing to hear that you had someone who, brought you into this world and was cheering for you.
Yes, and she was a really good advocate too.
Yeah,
and even all of the principals and the classrooms I got kicked out after years of success. I had a teacher write me and said, "I'm so proud of you."
No way.
I had principals.
One of the teachers that kicked you out.
Yeah. And I had principals that apologized to me and said, "I didn't think you would do that."
What was the most common thing you felt like you did as a child that got you kicked out of class?
Well, I was a joker, and I would, do you remember that dill pickle that made lots of crunch and loud noises?
Yeah.
And then the glasses came off, and I would joke in classes all the time.
Yeah, you make everyone laugh.
Yeah, I would make everyone laugh.
There's something to say about that, because that was one of the biggest reasons why I would get kicked out, and I'd just be too loud, right? And I find there's that element of personality and that bubbliness that when someone brings to the table in a business setting, people remember that, you know. It's a very cliche saying when they say, people don't remember what you say, they remember how you feel.
Yes.
And I can't imagine like how much that, is something that you put your best foot forward in when it comes to customer service.
Yes.
And I want you to share with us from any successful stories you have with customers, or even through your academy, Eveline, where customer service is something that you care deeply about, especially in the training aspect of running a business.
I spent Friday and Saturday in our store yesterday, and I was talking to all customers, and we have a lot of customers that have been coming to us for 25, 30, 35 years.
Wow.
I had customers that came to me in Falera and still come to us.
These are the OG regulars right there.
So I was asking questions to all of our customers, say, how do you feel in here? Like, what makes you feel coming back to us? And they said, we love your staff. We love your business. We love the beauty how beautiful the facility is. And we have very beautiful facilities.
Oh, gorgeous. Like it's a head turner.
Have you seen our new school in West Edmonton Mall?
I haven't. No, is it still in the location close to Anthropology and right across Zara?
No, that's our salon.
Mm-hmm.
We opened a school in February last year.
Nice, congrats.
Just before the COVID.
Yeah, and then this all happened.
And we got closed down.
Oh, I know.
So
I can't
anyway,
imagine.
but it's such a beautiful school. And, I love being in West Edmonton Mall. I absolutely love. I dealt probably in 1998 with Rafi, which was one of the brothers.
Yeah.
And
the Gramesians.
So the Gramesians. So anyway, I told we went away for 2 months. I told my husband, he called me before and I said, I'm not going to do that deal. So then as soon as I got back, he called me. And we negotiated probably for 7 hours in
no way
boardroom. And then I came home and I had to tell my husband I signed the deal.
It's happening.
Yeah. So anyway, he said, I can't believe you did that. I said, well, it's going to be really good for us. I said, I love West Edmonton Mall.
Yep.
And I have always loved West Edmonton Mall.
My mother, she runs laser shear and acne clinic inside West Edmonton Mall as well.
Yes.
And that was a big decision they needed to make where they choose between paying, of course, a lot higher rent in the mall or leaving.
True. Yeah.
At the time, my mom was located right beside Gold's Gym, Eveline.
Yeah,
and
I remember that.
That was a good location. It was a good time to be in at the mall.
Yeah.
And, the thing is, I would argue still to this day where location matters a lot, even down to where you are inside of a mall.
Yeah.
But also, if you're going to select where your business is going to be, I would argue that you should know if your audience is in and around that area. Yeah. And the big caveat here is, and we could possibly dive into it, is it doesn't matter whether the place has 1,000 people in a town or 1 million in a city.
Yeah.
I had this conversation with a friend of mine. Shout out to Chelsea. She was helping me out a lot the other night in regards to preparing for the episode. And she runs Allure, which is Allure by Chelsea. She does a lot of eyebrows and she does eyelashes, right? Yeah. And she was talking about it. She runs her own place in St. Albert. And I was like, yeah, you know what? If Eveline made $7,000 a month in her first business then in a small town of 1,000 people, who says others can't do that today?
Yeah.
And we're just breaking down the numbers and we're like, think about the community aspect.
Yes.
What you have to build and how much easier it is for 1,000 people to have word of mouth and share.
Yes.
Oh, who's this Eveline opening up a spa? What's going on here?
Yeah.
But I feel like, and maybe you can agree to this from what you've heard, a lot of people misconstrue this. Oh, I gotta go to a big city because that's where big dreams are.
No.
That's where the money is.
But I made a lot of money in my little town. So I was an hour and a half from Grand Prairie. I had customers coming from Grand Prairie and Peace River and the whole area, High Prairie. So I had people coming to me from an hour and a half.
It's unreal.
So I built my name up there and I had a great business, but that was in 1974, and I made $7,000 a month.
That's unreal.
Big money there. That was big money back
Like
then.
if we calculate inflation with that now, that is probably at least like, I don't know, 20,000 now?
Yeah, probably.
It's insane.
Yeah.
I want to ask you, so I'm sure everyone's probably wondering this. How? You know what I mean? Like at the end of the day, and I know, I don't even want to spoil it, there's some pretty creative, unique ways in which you utilize to get people to know your name and to get people to know your brand. Yeah. So if anyone else out there wants to make $7,000 their first month from Eveline Charles herself, what would be your biggest advice you give them that they need to do as soon as they start their business to make that kind of money?
So for me, it's always about growth. So when I moved to St. Albert, I started my salon and I wanted to build a house. So when I drove to St. Albert, there was these big 2-story houses. I thought you'd have to be married to own one of those homes. So within 6 months, I was building a house and I saved $60,000.
Wow.
60,000. So I always say if you want to drive a Mercedes tomorrow, you can drive it if you want it badly enough.
Yeah.
And that's what I did. I did hair in St. Albert when I was my first business out of Falher. I probably worked from 9 in the morning till 10 o'clock at night.
This episode of the Second Floor Podcast is brought to you by Edmonton Community Foundation. The foundation acts as a bridge between donors and charities to create a strong, vibrant community for generations to come. You can start an endowment fund yourself or with a group. Once it reaches $10,000, it can start distributing. Vital Signs is an annual checkup conducted by the Edmonton Community Foundation in partnership with Edmonton Social Planning Council to measure how the community is doing. This year's focus is on millennials. Learn more at ecfoundation.org.
So what were some of the things you found that differentiated you from every other hairstylist? Like what maybe in the conversation or in the planning or in, how you delivered your product or service? What are some things we could learn from that experience?
But it's a relationship with customers.
Big time.
To me, the biggest thing is relationship with customers. And I had probably, 1,000 customers coming from St. Albert. That's where I started. And, I try to support other businesses in the area. And I would go to the mall all the time because I was in Ainsdale, which is off the strip. So anyway, I started that first business in St. Albert. And then I'd go to the mall and I would talk to people and I'd say, here's my card. And even yesterday, I was telling all of our staff, if they love your hair, then give them 3 cards and say, if you love my service, can I give you 3 cards for your friends and family?
Oh, I love that. It's like the referral business.
Because it's a referral and you need to ask for all of that.
What does that card give them?
It's a referral card.
Oh, okay, nice. It's like it's like with their name and their information and everything, right?
Yeah.
There's something to say about that is don't be afraid to ask for the business.
Yeah.
And on top of that, another thing is don't be afraid to get to know your customer.
Yes.
Right? There's something about sitting down on that chair, the therapeutic experience of someone spending time for themselves to get their hair done. I feel it with my barber. I bug my barber all the time. I'm like, man, I don't need a therapist. You're my guy. I'll tell you everything,
But when I was downtown and I was still working on the floor, I used to work a lot of hours too. And I used to make probably in 94, I got off the floor. So I was making between $1,400 and $2,000 a day in my services. Because I always push myself and say, how much more money can I make? How much more money can I make? And I was servicing my clients and I would tell them, this is the new fashion. This is the new makeup. This is the clothes you need. And I would phone whole Renfrew or whatever store. If somebody liked what I was wearing, I'd say, they have this on sale or whatever at Whole Renfrew. You could go pick it up. I'll call for you and see if they have your size. So I offered all that kind of service. So I offered just more than haircuts. I would educate them on all kinds of fashion.
Oh, I love that. You are what I like to call a trendsetter, Eveline. Someone who is setting the bar and is becoming the go-to expert in that field of what we call fashion.
Yes.
And fashion now and beauty is something that I would argue is no longer something that people want to spend their disposable income on.
Yeah.
A lot of people were saying that, when I did market research for my mother growing up, her and I talked a lot about, at the very end of the day, whatever money's left, that's when people will spend their hard-earned dollars on themselves. I don't think that's the case anymore.
No.
I think now more than ever, where, to how we want to present ourselves and how we come off and the whole look good, feel great mentality, now more than ever, we want to capitalize on that. And we want people to understand that when you do put your money into yourself, through fitness, you know, maybe getting a trainer, through like, hey, like get your hair done, right? Like do something for yourself, right? It can pay dividends to like how you show up to that date, how you show up.
To me, every day I show up like this every day at work. I wash my hair every day. I'm not a lazy person.
And why do you think that's so important? And this is coming from someone who, I agree. Like I've worked in the restaurants, I've worked in the retail. Every single manager would tell me, hey, polish hair, polish shoes. Like come and look presentable.
Absolutely.
Why is that so important?
But it is so important because people look at you, and if I always say to all my staff, if you look good every day and your haircut is cut and you have great makeup on, they're going to come and point and say, I want that stylist. Like we had a lot of windows at West Edmonton Mall, and as soon as somebody would come in, they'd say, I want that girl. So I had my sister and my cousin working for me. They were both hairdressers.
Nice.
And a lot of people would come in and say, oh, she looks great. I would like to have her.
I like that. Yeah. Half of it is just,
but it's
half
pride
the battle
chip
is
too.
how you carry yourself.
Yeah, it's pride chip. And, for me, I'm a great hostess, even in my home. Nice. I'm a great cook. And, I host all my people. Mm-hmm. So even when they were customers of mine, I hosted them all the time.
That's awesome. I can tell. That's no surprise at all. That's awesome. I want us to shift into a little bit about what you spoke earlier when, sure enough, the pandemic happened. And you are someone, of course, in an industry that also got extremely affected.
Yes.
However, you did something really cool 4 or so years ago.
Yeah.
You made hand sanitizer.
Yes, I did.
And you, at a point where you recognize it was much more of a necessity than ever before, you started to recognize the importance of bringing that back onto the shelf. Guide us through, Eveline, that first day you realized that you and your staff were not going back to work and you needed to quickly pivot or quickly figure out a brand new strategy to keep the ball rolling.
Yes.
I'd love to hear how that all happened.
So in 2016, we made a hand sanitizer, a very luxury one that was sold in our salons, and we had a hand cream to match it. And then when the pandemic hit, we were closed down, and I didn't know how we were going to pay our rents. And we had a lot of locations back then. So anyway, we made our hand sanitizers that were not as luxury, and we had frontline workers. We had City of Edmonton. We had FedEx. We had Alberta Health Services. We made probably 1,000 bottles, and we made $2 million.
Holy moly! Yeah, it's impressive.
So it was really it was good for us because we always reinvent and pivot ourselves. But now our new lab is going to be our new business, and we're making products probably that's going to go to China, to the US, to Europe.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Congratulations. That's huge.
Yeah.
To make a quick $2 million on hand sanitizer.
In 6 weeks.
Wow.
So I was on the line filling, and we worked from probably 8 o'clock in the morning till 1:30 in the morning.
Wow.
So my husband and I were there all the time.
Yeah.
And I'm not afraid of hard work. I've never been afraid of that. And that's probably what propelled our business to where it is today.
That's amazing. And congratulations, rightfully so. There's something to say about that where never underestimate the level of creativity you have in the years that have brought you to where you are, in terms of recognizing that you created a product once upon a time 4 years ago.
Yeah.
Probably just for the sake of, hey, we're in beauty, we're in health, we want to stay clean, let's create some hand sanitizer.
Yeah.
That now look, it's just a matter of going back to the drawing board and being like, guys, we need to bring that back.
Yeah.
Because guess what? The whole entire world needs it now.
Yes.
Like more than ever.
And right now we're going to sell our luxury hand sanitizer to probably Europe, Africa, the United States. So we're working with people that right now.
Please tell me it smells nice.
It smells beautiful.
Okay, that's perfect.
I should have brought. I'm gonna send you some. I'm gonna send you some.
I need me some luxury hand sanitizer. Yeah. Every guest is gonna be using that.
Everybody, it really smells nice, and there's 4 different scents, and there's an unscented one too.
Well, I mean, hey, we're still living through this good old pandemic. Where can people get it here locally in Edmonton, or online rather?
They can get it online on Shopify.
Nice.
And then they can get it in our store in West Edmonton Mall.
Perfect. I know where I'm going.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I want to know, Eveline, I mean, this could be related to what we're just talking about with innovating and going through the changes naturally through what happens in the economy. What do you have to say about, let's say, mastering delegation? Because you are running at this point a huge operation, right? Like when you shared with me your business model and all of the steps in it, I was able to recognize that, okay, well, this is impossible if it's a one-woman show. You know, like,
no, I have a great team.
Yeah.
I've had a president that started with me. She was 17. She went to NAIT for marketing and business. And then she started working on my front desk. She's my cousin's daughter.
Oh, nice. Wow.
And
there you
she's
go.
worked with me for 27 years. And
that's amazing.
You need to pick good people that are going to be smarter than you. And she's very smart, and she has a different way of doing business than I do. But I was probably pretty strict, and I don't think the millennials would handle that anymore.
Yeah, stab at us millennials, right?
Yeah. No. I love the millennials, but
fair.
But they
can't beat around the bush. Like this needs to be done, and if it's not done, we're all screwed.
But she is a really good leader, and she's going to be the new leader of our business.
That's amazing.
And she's doing it probably 3/4 of the time now. Yeah. I'm trying to retire, but I still go into all of our businesses, but I will never quit working 100% because it keeps your mind active. And, my mom died of Alzheimer's. She had Alzheimer's for 14 years.
Sorry to hear.
And, I don't want to be static. If you keep your mind busy, it's going to be much better for you.
You picked apart on something, Eveline, super important there is you shouldn't, if you're ready to run an enterprise as large as Eveline, be the smartest person in the room. Find people who have such unique qualities in them and skill sets that you just don't have. And
you can't be jealous of them, because I always say we have so many smart people in our company. And, I was never, I had my grade 12 education, but I feel like I earned my MBA.
Yeah. Oh, 100%.
I do.
Yeah. What do they call it? An honorary MBA? Yeah. When someone has walked through multiple steps and they get one?
It was a real coup in my cap to teach MBA level for marketing and my business.
That's huge.
Yeah.
And that's without even a college education.
Yeah. No, I had my grade 12 education, but I always took executive courses because, you need to stay ahead of your curve.
Always.
Because if you're not getting educated on business, then you're never going to grow. You're never going to grow.
I'm so glad you're sharing that right now, because I think if more, and I'm just going to say it, females heard this from another female who also isn't college educated, however, is someone that believes in the pursuit of educating themselves in what they want to be educated in. Yes. Because don't get me wrong, I bet you every single day, every week, every month, you're thinking about how to improve a salon, how to be a better hairstylist.
So many years ago, I was asked to apply for the Quantum Shift, which is a week in London Western University for business. Okay. So I was qualified, and they took 200 applications, and they took 40 people across Canada. So I went to that course, and it was probably one of the best courses I've ever been to.
Wow. What did you do? What was like the biggest learning experience from that?
Well, it was case studies after case studies. And, I was there with 40 entrepreneurs. And, the woman from TNT was there, and there was a lot of great entrepreneurs.
The owner of TNT?
Yeah.
Supermarket?
Yeah.
Oh, there you go. That's awesome.
So I was there with a whole bunch of entrepreneurs, and, I learned a lot from them too. And then I went to I was awarded a global award for Canada. And I went to London, England with my president, and we then went to Barcelona, and we got
awesome.
the second global award for
Wow.
our industry
That's
in
huge.
Canada. So then I went to the UCLA because they were offering that course. So I brought 5 of my people to UCLA for a whole week.
Oh, that's
to
awesome.
do an executive course.
Yeah, to get this done.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I love that. It just goes to show that you don't necessarily need a degree to ultimately reach a high point of success.
No.
I want you to even share, because this is the thing I find that's really tough.
Yeah.
Is there's people out there, and let's say even specifically females, who feel like if they decide to be a business owner, they are going to be going up a very steep hill. Like they're going to have to in this day and age. And I have some of our listeners share this with us who are females. Some of them who are like, oh my goodness, like I have to compete against these guys. I have to compete against, other people who are educated. Like what advice would you give even a young female today? Or male who's just about to start, and they don't have any university education. They don't necessarily feel like they need one. They have a passion.
Yeah, they have
a
passion.
They just, they want to be their own business owner. They just don't know where to start. They're constantly like, I'm going to do it. Oh no, not a good idea. I'm about to go fight I'm fighting against wolves here. They're not a first adopter, because in this day and age, Eveline, this is our biggest problem with millennials is, in my opinion, is we get so, you could say, held back, and we get timid to jump in because there's already so many people who are fishing in the same pond.
But you need to fight the race. You need to keep fighting for your business. And that's what I did all my life. So I'm a fighter, and you need to read a lot. You need to read a lot of books. You don't need a university degree to run a business, but if you can read and you can learn, like I would call a lot of people, I'd say, I'm having this struggle. And I would call a lot of businessmen, and there was more businessmen in my days than there was women.
Yeah.
So anyway, I call these guys and I'd say, can I bring you out for lunch? And they would give me really good advice. And I was never scared to call anybody, and they always met me.
I wish I remembered the name of this gentleman. It was like when I was really getting into listening to podcasts, and it was one of the very first ones I listened to. And he said, the biggest investment you can make is taking someone out for lunch.
Yeah.
And he said he has what was it? He said something like crazy, like $20,000 a year. He's like, I put aside $20,000 a year, and when I connect with people, I say, hey, let me take you out for lunch. Yeah. You have to eat. I have to eat. I have some problems in my life going on related to from how you handle things. I feel like you'll help me out in. Let me take you out to a nice full 3-course meal.
Yes.
And again, like to your point, putting yourself out there and being vulnerable. I find that so important to do in relationships, but also in business, because every single business owner wants to look like they have it all figured out.
Yes.
And then when you're able to create,
of these people help me out. And I was on the board of governors for the Junior Achievement, and I met some really high profile men. And I could phone any one of them and they would help me out.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I love that. It reminds me of how I know this is something you care so much about based off of how you structured, Eveline, your academy.
Yeah.
So when I look at Eveline Charles Academy, I see two really unique things. Is I see the opportunity for someone to hone in on that passion, to actually learn how to, be a stylist.
Yes.
Here's how to actually do someone's hair the way they want it done. And then there's the other aspect of it that I find makes you the biggest differentiator compared to any other academy is you teach individuals who want to do this the business practices that they need to know.
Yes.
They don't have to get the degree with that.
But the reason I started the school is because we couldn't find enough qualified students. So I said, let's put a really good program out there, and let's get some great people that can teach everybody, So, and now we just applied for our international status, and we're going to get a lot of students from around the world.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So we have somebody working in India and the Philippines, and they said we could fill your school with 300 students right now.
That's unreal.
Yeah.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
Holy moly. Because right now, is it only affiliated in Canada?
Yeah, it is. So So we get students from across Canada. We get students from Halifax, Saskatchewan, BC, Manitoba. So we get a lot of students from Canada, but it would be nice to have students from around the world.
Your concept's so unique because this is the way I like looking at it, is you identified a problem you had where it was like, why can't we find the fit? Why can't we find the one? And it's like, if you can't find them, create them,
So when we started our businesses, we had to train students for a year and a half before we would put them on the floor. So now when they come out of our school, we can put them on the floor in 3 months.
Oh, that's awesome.
3 months.
Why the year and a half originally? That's a long process, hey?
But, we had to make sure that they were great at hair cutting, great at coloring, great customer service.
Yeah, there's a lot they have to know.
Yeah, I still go teach in our school. I every class that comes new in our school, we probably do classes every 6 weeks, and I go speak to them.
Good, that's awesome.
Yeah, because I want to mentor them, and I want to make sure that they're successful in their journey too.
I love that. That is awesome. I can't imagine what this looks like right now. Is it possible for your programming to be online, just for the sake of anyone who wants to learn right now?
So right now we're working with a gentleman. His name is Quincy, and he has done virtual classrooms, so we could train off-site, and we're going to do this with a lot of the First Nation communities right now. So you could have an instructor marking, go to classroom 1 and we're doing virtual tours of all of our school right now.
Nice.
Yeah. So a teacher could go in classroom 1 and teach them exactly what they need.
Do they need a partner at home? Like if they're going to be practicing on somebody, is it something where like if they're learning online, they'll need another body?
They can send videos, and they can send pictures of what they're doing, and then they can get graded.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So we have a virtual classroom makeup program that we started with quite a few years ago, and it's really picking up steam now.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm really glad you guys pivoted. Knowing you, there's not going to be we're trying to figure it out. It's like, we figured it out. Yeah, we're online now.
But
I love it.
This whole virtual classroom is going to go. So we're contacting a lot of big companies, and we're going to teach eyelashes, nails, makeup, everything online now.
I love that. I want to ask you a question about value. When we talk about that, a lot of business owners and entrepreneurs, sorry, not even a lot of, let's just say in general, and this kind of goes back to my point about that, is it nature, is it nurtured?
Yeah.
I had a good friend of mine the other day, we go for a run, and he told me something that really resonated. It made me realize that just some people feel uncomfortable about this. He goes, man, I love everything we do, but when it comes down to asking someone for their money, he's like, I hate that part.
Yeah.
And that's where I recognize, okay, like there's that business quality I have where I don't get uncomfortable. I go, hey, here's how much I cost. Here's my value.
Absolutely.
And this is what it comes with.
Yeah.
What do you feel like, you did in your experience that might help someone now figure out what their value is for them to feel comfortable to be like, yeah, this is my asking price?
But you need to charge, and you need to figure out what your rent costs and what your whole business costs, and you need to set that up as soon as you can, because if you're going to charge $20 for a haircut, you're never going to make it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So our haircuts go up to, they start at probably $40 for the juniors, and then they go up to probably $90 or $95.
There you go.
Yeah.
And that number, obviously, it's neat that you said this, is it first came with, okay, well, how much is this cut going to cost me, the business owner,
exactly.
right? The time for the employee, the upkeep of the keeping the lights on, and et cetera.
Yeah.
So do you have, and again, this might just be trade secrets, and you could be like, Kenny, nope, not sharing it. But for anyone out there, is there a certain number you want to give them where you're like, okay, take your fixed costs and take some of your variable costs. Okay, now be this much higher. Is there anything that you would suggest?
You need to make money in a business. It's not a shame to make money.
Yeah.
Because, if you're going to work so hard, you need to make money. And a lot of people think that businesses shouldn't make a lot of money. But, I've worked so many different angles of our businesses, but I love numbers.
Yeah.
I love looking at numbers, and I love looking at forecasts and making goals.
Yeah.
So I'm a very goal-driven person.
Totally. Yeah, I think you definitely would you agree that you just have to enjoy the idea of, I think saying numbers is too broad, but I mean, let's put it this way. If someone is uncomfortable asking for money and they're a business owner, are they in the right position to be a business owner? Is there some changes they need to be making about that? Is it psychological?
Yeah.
Even
a lot of our students, like when I ask them, what do you want to do in your life?
Yeah.
And they always say, I want to open my own business. But business is not for everybody. You need to have strong leadership, and you need to have good confrontation to lead a business. So a lot of people, like if I had to teach a course to women, I would say confrontation is the biggest problem for women.
Yeah, like deal with conflict resolution, and don't be afraid to have those hard-hitting conversations, right? Where you have to put your foot down.
I'm never hard. I'm never scared to tell somebody something.
I've been more scared, Eveline, of female managers I've had than male managers in my past because they were good at that. Yeah. Like they were like, listen, this needs to get done, and if it doesn't, you're not doing your job.
Yes, I agree.
What would be some I don't know, from a perspective of your own experience, where you remember you needed to have that crucial conversation with somebody, and when it happened, whether it was immediate or not, you earned their respect from it. I'd love to hear from that personal side.
I have a lot of people that have contacted me over the years, and they said, you were strict, but I learned a lot from that.
Nice.
And I have no problem telling anybody anything. I really don't.
No beating around the bush. Just...
No. And very straight and very direct. But, you can't be mean either.
Yeah.
But if you explain to someone, like, this is not good, you need to work harder. And even yesterday I was in our salons and I said, if you're not servicing your client by giving them the retail and teaching them everything, and you're not rebooking their next appointment, that's business. And because a lot of people feel afraid of doing that, but I never was afraid of that.
I love that. It's like, it's dating, right?
Yeah.
When are we seeing each other next?
Yeah, exactly.
That's that simple, right? Yeah. You care about that client's beauty. You care about them looking their best.
Yes.
Okay, in 3-4 weeks, they're going to need a little bit of a reassessment, right? That hair is going to, the sun's going to come out. It's going to change things. I need to see you again next month.
Yeah.
What works better for you, Saturday or Sunday?
Yeah, that's what we do all the time.
That's awesome. Yeah. And I love that you share that, because that is something in the fitness industry that I can't stress enough in terms of what I've learned as a manager. When I want to tell my trainers, hey, there's 2 things, is every decision you make and what you tell your your clients is to make sure that you're going to give them better results.
Yes.
Because that's what they came in for. And two, let's make you more money.
Yeah.
Let's fill your plate. And you do that by doing your best to find the next time you're going to see them.
But that's why you're in business. That's why you're in business.
No, exactly. You got to operate that way, right?
Yes.
I love that. That is awesome. Would there be a time where I kind of want to look at this from the perspective of regret? You know, there's probably been a million decisions you've had to make along the way in business, in your personal life. There's two sides to this coin, and I want you to share both. Is one, is there something that happened that it didn't end up turning out in the outcome at the time you wanted it to go into, but you don't regret it because something magical happened from it?
But, you know, we were going to do, we went with the Bay and Saks Fifth Avenue, and we were going to do a franchise. And, you know, when I did those 2 stores in Calgary, I realized that, you know what, it's going to be a hard job to do that. Like, a lot of people think franchises are just like that. But, you know, there's a lot of disgruntled franchisees. So I realized that after that, I didn't want to do that.
That's fair. Other than the franchise model, what does your model look like right now? Because you do have more than one location, right? You have several.
Yeah.
So if it's not a franchise model, what exactly is it on the business side?
But, you know, we've did a lot of our stores. We shut down because the leases were running out or whatever.
Yeah.
But because, you know, it's a very hard business to run. So I had a store in Vancouver, and then I had 2 stores in Kelowna, and it was during the time that a lot of Albertans were moving to Kelowna. And I thought, oh, well, if all of these Albertans from Calgary and Edmonton are moving to Kelowna, we should set up a business. And then everybody convinced me to do the first one in the mall in Kelowna. And then I did the second one on Lakeshore Road because people from Kelowna didn't want to go to the mall. So then we had these 2 stores, but, you know, it's really hard to get great managers and it's not just like selling retail. It's numbers. It's
so much of that.
Yeah, it's so much more to run a hair salon and a spa than just retail.
I'm really glad you said that because retail's a product. You are in a service-oriented business.
Yeah, we are service and retail.
Yeah, and there's something that I'm really curious to ask when you share that. I'm just needing to remember exactly what that was.
Yeah.
It was something that you were mentioning. Through that, yes, I found it.
Yeah.
When it comes to your name being the brand, right? How much of that was intentional and how much of that worked in your favor? Because why I ask that, Eveline, is I've met people along the way now who are entrepreneurs who go into one of 2 of the boxes. One where they're, hey, I am my business. Yeah. You know, my name is the business. Every hour on the hour, I'm thinking about how I am a reflection of what I put out there. And then there's others who are like, hey, I'm me. My business is the business.
Yeah,
and we're
I'm
separate.
That way. I'm so separate.
Is that right?
So
I'm surprised.
When I reserve in a restaurant, I always reserve under my husband's name.
No way.
Because I don't want any favors.
Yeah, the whole name thing, right?
So I don't want to say my name. So my name is totally disconnected from the business.
Wow.
Totally
okay.
Disconnected.
So was that something when you were in the evolution of creating the name?
Yeah.
And it's Eveline Charles.
Yeah.
Guide me through how that changed.
But you know, we used to be called Bianco Nero.
Okay, there you go.
Back in the day.
Yeah.
And we had a two stores downtown, and then in 2000 I had a partner that we opened Calgary together, and then I said, well, you know, let's just part ways, and you keep that store in Calgary, and I'll keep Edmonton. So then he kept Bianco Nero name, and I, in the 2000, when everybody was confused about what the world was going to be like.
Yeah.
You know, we changed our name in 2000
Oh, there you go.
to Eveline Charles.
And when you changed that, were you also in the mentality then where you're like, I want to be separate from the business? Because that's
but I've
what's
always
unique.
been separate from the business. But
Yeah.
because it's my name. And, you know, we've had a great brand.
Yeah.
So I sat probably for 10 years on the biggest board in the U.S. It's called a PBA. And I was probably better known in the States. Lena and I used to teach a lot of business courses in the United States. So I was probably more known in the United States than Canada.
Wow, no way. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I love that. It's funny how that works, hey? You could go to one particular area or place and be known than others.
Yeah.
I feel like we got so much out of this portion of the conversation from you, Eveline, on the business front.
Yeah.
I want us to shift into some details on fashion and then fitness.
Okay.
Being that we've talked a little bit already about your passion in fashion.
Yeah.
That rhymes. That was totally, I did not even mean to do that. That was perfect.
Yeah.
Passion in fashion. So
Yes.
with that in mind, guide us through, where is the fashion industry heading right now from your perspective? Where would you want it to go?
Yeah. You know, because a lot of clothes now is disposable because, you know, I used to spend so much money back in the day at Holt Renfrew. I used to buy Donna Karan suits and spend a lot of money.
Yeah.
But now the clothes is so great. It's disposable.
It is.
And it's so much cheaper now.
Yeah,
So
I'm gonna
much
wear
cheaper.
it once.
Yes.
And like I went to H&M the other day.
Yeah.
And I'm
No,
actually
no,
wearing an H&M
yeah,
sweater.
But I love H&M
Yeah.
and I love Zara too.
It's affordable.
And you know, I even shop at Winners and Marshalls because they have a lot of great stuff too.
They do.
Yeah, they do.
And I find that we're in this time where you just want to wear it once.
Yeah, you do.
You know?
You do. And you know, for me, I like lots of clothes and I change every day and I don't want to wear something for the month.
Yeah. Yeah. You'll change it up that often,
Yeah.
right?
So
I love
anyway,
that.
I buy disposable clothes now and I buy some great outfits.
Yeah.
Great outfits.
So for the ladies listening to this, and I'm going to bring it back to them, you know, they want to look and feel cool. They want to feel sexy. They want to also feel appreciated. What would you, not even what sort of, because I understand fashion is a statement. It's different for everyone.
Yeah.
What should someone be feeling when they're making a decision to wear something? And I'm going to tell you how I feel about this. I'm big on wear something that matches your personality.
Yes.
Wear something that you're not going to wear just because you feel like everyone will accept you for wearing it.
Yeah.
So from Eveline Charles herself, what advice would you give someone when they're trying to figure out their style?
I would always say, you know, for me, I always had my own style. And you know, I love shopping and I would go into a store and I would span the store and I'd say, okay, I like that. I like this. I like that. And you know, I would walk through the whole store and, you know, you have to have your own style. You can't copy everybody. So for me, it was never about, it was always being dressed up and professional. So for me, I was never a sexy dresser. That's not my style.
You weren't like revealing that type, right?
No, I'm not that kind of person.
No.
So my most revealing is probably a sundress or bathing suit on a holiday.
Yeah, no, exactly. No, I appreciate you sharing that. It's funny because I find there's so many things that we mentioned about our stories where I can relate.
Yeah.
I'll go into a clothing store, Eveline.
Yeah.
And what I like to do the same thing is like I want to touch and see
me too.
everything. And then what I do is I'll grab the clothing item.
Yeah.
I'm starting to be smart about it now. Where I'll grab the clothing item knowing I'm grabbing a lot more than I can either afford or that I can like want to get.
Yeah.
But I'll grab all the things I like. And then now what I've noticed, I'll go to the change room or now it's post-pandemic. I'll just have to kind of look at it and see.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, you know what? You compared to the first few don't need, you know,
you don't.
don't
doing
need,
that
don't
now,
need.
too.
And like just doing it through like seeing all of them from the selected options you like, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of funny. It's neat to learn how people shop.
But you need to, like for me now, I'm not going to work 7 days a week or 6 days a week or whatever. So now I need different stuff. So in my house, I wear leggings and sweatshirts.
Yeah, the wardrobe's probably changed a little bit.
Yeah,
right?
It's changed a lot. So now my worry is, what am I going to do with all these closets?
We got it. Hey, you know what? I bet new side hustle. You sell those. You know, you say Eveline Charles worn, and that's gonna be a high ticket price item right there.
The last time I had a clothing sale, I made $5,000 on it.
No way. See? That is unreal. It was like a garage sale type thing?
Yeah,
or?
it was. It started in my school and then it ended up in my garage. And I advertised Eveline Charles is having a clothing sale.
Oh, I love that.
I had so many people come.
Yeah, it's unreal, right? It's actually there's something to that.
Yeah. But I donated a lot to it's called suitable wear or whatever, suits.
Nice.
Yeah. I donated a lot of that stuff.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. I take it. Are you a hoarder? Do you like to hold on to something of sentimental value, or are you kind of like
But I had stuff years ago that, I had some back in the day. I had Gucci stuff, I had Chanel stuff, and sometimes those were expensive items, and it's hard to give up.
Yeah, that's true. Especially when you recognize those fruitful moments where you knew at that time you had to work so hard to earn it, and you want to keep it.
And I bought stuff when I was hardly earning any money.
Yeah. No.
Because it was important to me to have some of those brands.
Yeah, no, again, you look and feel the part, right?
Yes.
I want to know I feel like I'm not doing my job if I don't ask this, is what does a typical, makeup tips or hair routine you have for our listeners? Anything where you feel like it's self-care related? Is there anything that you particularly do that you want to share with our audience?
I get cuts all the time, and I try to change my cuts quite a bit.
Oh yeah.
And then I change my makeup every season, and I change my clothes every season.
Nice.
Because if you're wearing the same hairstyle 10 years ago, you're outdated. Mm-hmm. You're outdated. And if you, like I always used to tell my customers, you've not changed your hair for 10 years. So if you wore the same clothes 10 years ago, how dated would you be?
I like that.
Because, it's true. It's the truth. Like if you don't change your hair for 30 years, you're not having fun in the industry.
Yeah, so true. You gotta get spunky a little bit and change things up, right? And with fashion, with statements that a lot of fashion forward influencers make, they tend to set that trend.
Yes.
Right.
But my passion all my life has been fashion. I love fashion.
Well, where's your favorite place to look at for like wearing or doing the next best thing? Like where do you typically look for, let's just say right now, going into spring 2021?
Yeah. But I watch all the fashion runways, and I watch a lot of Pinterest, and I have probably 50 boards on my Pinterest. And
nice.
I save a lot of hairstyles, and I do the trend releases for our salons and schools. So I save a lot of Pinterest boards, and then I say 2021 hair, spring, fall.
Yep.
Like years ago we used to look through magazines, Vogue magazines, and now it's
digital. Pinterest has replaced that experience, right?
It has, yeah.
I've been talking a lot about with you today, Eveline, like, what do females think, and going on the notion of female listeners. But for any of our guys out there listening to this, and I'm actually very curious too, do you guys cut guys' hair? I'm sure.
Yeah, we do.
That's something you do, right?
We do. Yeah.
Now, I don't know if you've heard about this. I don't know if, and it wouldn't be surprised if I do, but I remember, personally, I reached this point. I was in high school, right? And I remember I was getting my hair cut at a salon, right? Mm-hmm. And I had the lovely ladies in the salon. They gave me shampoo. They gave me conditioner. I love that part, right?
Massage.
They peppered you right up. They complimented on your looks today, right? And that made me feel good. And I remember there was this trend, right?
Yes.
Where guys started getting fades.
Yes.
And then I remember I would walk into a salon.
Yes.
And I'd be like, oh, I'd like to get a fade.
Yeah.
And they'd be like,
but they're not as good. Hairdressers are not as good as barbers.
I respect that opinion.
No, it's true. It's true. So if somebody has not had barber training, they're not as good. We have a guy that's had 2 businesses on White Avenue, and he's teaching in our school right now. And I'm giving him a lot of time to teach all of our hairdressers for barbering.
Awesome. It's a need now. Do you look at it almost like, hey,
Absolutely.
like we should have hairstylists know this?
Yeah.
Now I know what to ask.
Yes.
I'm going to walk into a salon and I'm going to say, hey, do you have barber training?
Yes.
If they say no, I'm
true.
walking out.
No, because there's a big difference. Like I used to do a longer men's haircuts when I was on the floor, but I learned how to do fades on my husband.
Nice. There you go. Yeah. What better way to then, right? So is Eveline Charles barber trained? Are you barber trained?
No. But,
That's
you
fair.
know, I learned a lot about it because...
I respect the honesty.
Yeah. I learned a lot about it because I could do fades now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, done deal. I should have grabbed my razor. We could have made this happen right now.
No.
No, that's fair.
But, you know, when I was a hairdresser, I didn't like to do a lot of men because I made way more money with women.
Fair.
Yeah. So it wasn't my favorite thing to do, men. But I had a lot of male customers that the wives would send them to me. But, you know, it's so funny because I had a male customer and he was pretty arrogant and he treated me like I was a hairdresser.
Oh.
And, you know, I always said, I'm going to stand up to myself. So anyway, he was a lawyer and he would treat me like kind of like I wasn't smart enough.
Like he acted like he's above you in the circumstance of...
So then I asked him the question. I said, how much money do you make? If this is going to be important to you, how much money? And so he told me, I can't remember what it was. And I said, well, I probably make double of what you make. I said, is that putting us on fair fields?
That I would have loved it if you were like, hey, one sec, I'm just going to grab my card.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if you go grab your card,
you know, and
like,
then he became my best customer and best advocate.
No way.
Yeah.
The same guy.
Yeah. Yeah.
What do you feel like changed there?
When I said to him, are we playing on the same fields right now? Like I make more money than you. So is it about how smart I am or what?
Status, whatever it is.
Yeah.
No, I love that this goes back to your point about you need to put your foot down.
Yeah, you do.
In moments like that and not be afraid of how the person's going to react.
No.
Look and see how that person immediately, I bet you their wall went down and they're like, oh, okay, whoa.
Yeah.
You know,
but when I told him how much money I made, it changed the whole conversation.
And I think, you know what, to be honest with you, Eveline, that makes me kind of sad. Is like to know that all of a sudden he's going to respect you more just based off of that.
Yeah.
You know, it just kind of makes me feel like people need to start, and I know this isn't everyone, but it's the classic rule. Treat others how you want to be treated.
Absolutely.
And you know what? You should respect even the janitor and even every single person in the room, because if it weren't for them, this place wouldn't even be up.
I agree.
You know, and you never know who you're talking to. He's thinking, oh, I'm talking to a hairstylist. Okay, even if you are, great. This person's getting your hair done. Little does he know, he's having the owner of this entire operation cut his hair.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
Right?
But, you know, I respect everybody in our salon. Like, even... I had a girl that was a Filipino girl, and she came to me through the Philippines, and she left to United States because her parents were living there. And I still tell her she was one of my best employees.
Nice.
Best employees.
Yeah.
And I absolutely adored her. But, you know, I had a lot of Filipino girls come to work for me because they were my nannies. And then I sent them all to school for estheticians because they're great estheticians. And some of them have thanked me over and over because the first nanny I taught her how to drive. I taught her how to save money. I taught her how to invest. And she says to me all the time, I'm so grateful for what you did to me. And I had probably 6 or 8 Filipinos come through the years.
That's
and
amazing.
I sent them all to school.
Honestly, like, I don't mean this to be biased, but I find Filipinos are the most hardworking people I've ever met in my life.
Yeah,
like,
I
every
love
single
them.
one I come across.
Yes.
They are phenomenal human beings.
And you know, they're very they have great conversations. They lend to the whole business. Like, my Filipino girls, estheticians, are some of the best I've ever had.
Conversational, very giving, very giddy,
very
right?
giving, and they're very kind to people and very servient.
Yep.
Yeah.
It is.
They're unbelievable.
I grew up, Eveline, you know, when my parents were working 3-4 jobs and they immigrated here from India, we were taken care of by a Filipino family.
Yeah.
And they were our family, you know, like Jem, she was like a mother to us. And she raised us for like a good 2-3 years. And we were there every day. You know, we were sleeping over there and we were getting taken care of. And they're so loving. Like
But my youngest son, she came to work for us when he was a baby. And I said, if you give me 8 years, I'll send you to school. And then she would, on her day off, she would come from Millwoods all the way to St. Albert, where I live. And she would bring him a hot lunch.
Wow.
And you know, they still have such a close bond.
I love that.
Like, she's like his second mom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wanna get into something personal here. I mean, it's something I didn't even expect I'd talk about, but I'm actually genuinely very curious to know your opinion. I'll tell you what I'm going through right now. And I almost feel like maybe there's an answer you might say that I'm just looking for. It might not be the case. So I recently, I was in a pretty, serious relationship, right? And it's been now a few months that I'm single. And I'm starting to accept and recognize that from the result of the breakup and from, not entirely so, but from the result of the breakup and even now as I'm navigating my own life and meeting other people, I recognize that time is very valuable for people and I can't give that time. And this is coming from someone who is, on his own entrepreneurial journey. I'm doing my podcast. I'm working my 9 to 5. I'm trying to juggle so much. I'm trying to get my black belt in jiu-jitsu eventually. I want to one day run my own academy. Like, all these things are going on. And I remember feeling in my previous relationship how much limited time I can give. But now I'm like, okay, well, Kenny, you need to be honest with women you meet right from the get-go.
I agree.
And I've shared this recently. And I feel like it is going to be the result of realizing when someone I was speaking with, she's like, well, I told her this. I'm like, I feel like I could only see someone I end up dating once a week for the next 5 years, at least.
Yeah.
And I don't even know what's going to come after that. And she said, well, how do you even expect to have a girlfriend? And that hit me really hard. And I was like, yeah, because I'm a very...
Some people understand though.
Yeah.
So my husband and I met probably 1984, and he was flying overseas and he had a really busy schedule, and I had my businesses and I had my kids. So I would bring him to sports and we made it work.
Awesome.
Like I worked a lot of times till 10 o'clock at night.
Yeah. And that's normal.
Yeah.
But for you, you're like, you jive off of that.
Yeah.
And then you're like, okay, I only have this much time left.
Yeah.
So I started, I'm in this point now, Eveline, where it's like, to your point, is there someone who's just going to accept that and be okay with it? Am I just going to have to accept being this single for the next 5 years?
You need to find a very busy person.
And you know what? That's the thing. I'm so glad you said it.
Yeah.
It's like, and I love someone who's a great friend of mine, and she runs several locations of her own business.
Yeah.
The way she put it, she's like, Kenny, this is what I want. And what she wants is what I want.
Yeah.
Mind you, there's a big age gap, but that's that's besides the point. She says, I want someone who has their own boat,
Yes.
And I want to have my boat.
Yes.
And I want us to just, we're kind of going at the same time.
Yeah.
But he has his thing, I have my thing. Yeah. And I'm like, that makes sense. And then I see, and her and I relate why we both struggle sometimes to find that person.
You need to find someone that's as busy as you. And my husband and I, we trade off on everything. So when I'm busy and he's busy, then we just trade off on doing our own things.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I wouldn't want a man that was so needy and so around. And like I couldn't stand that.
Someone who's got nothing but time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I would, for me, I've been busy all my life, and my husband's been busy too. And he's just a great guy because he keeps himself busy too.
Awesome. So you don't feel like, Eveline, it's something where I don't have to go into this next chapter of my life of feeling like I'm sacrificing the idea of being with someone. It's just more so you're just gonna have to find the right fit with someone who's just as relentlessly busy as you, and they're chasing after their own dream and goals.
Yes, yeah.
That's fair.
And that's what you need. That's what you need, because my husband and I have chased our goals all of our life.
Yeah.
And, sometimes we get together at night or whatever, and even when I was raising kids, I was working a lot of hours too.
Yeah.
And, and my kids turned out fine.
Yep. That's a very important statement to make because
a lot of women feel guilty.
Yeah.
Even when I was teaching that MBA course on marketing and business, a lot of women felt so guilty for leaving their kids. I said, well, I had my mom first, and then I had nannies, and they took great care of my kids.
Yeah, the values that you were taught from your own mother is now being, passed on to your children.
Yes.
What are some other advice you could share with mothers like that who feel guilty, who almost like they get into the motherhood state and they can't help but feel that sense of, I'm a mother now, and the emotional changes that are happening?
But for me, I always loved business, and I always wanted to work. So with my first child, I had 2 weeks off, and then I went back to work.
That's it, hey?
My second child, I had 6 days off and went back to work.
Yeah, I can just picture you being like, okay, I got to get back out there.
Because, I love working, and it makes me happy, and it makes me a better mom.
I love that you say that, because it comes back to whether it's business or not, what is it in your life that you still need to fill your cup so you can go back to being the best at being a mother.
Yes.
And those are healthy conversations you should have with your spouse, conversations you should have with yourself.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? And if you're wondering why you're so upset, so mad, so angry, well, what is it that maybe you've done less or more of that you need to keep at an even level? I'm glad you shared that. I'm trying to practice being more vulnerable on the show and just sharing more issues I'm dealing with.
I might have to meet you a girlfriend.
No, there's no girlfriend. I have no girlfriend. I'm single as it gets right now, but it's just, and that's again, those are my walls that are up.
Yeah.
Is I share that with people I'm meeting. I'm not ready.
I would be the same as you. For me, if somebody wasn't really busy and life wasn't exciting, I would never be with that person.
Yeah, that's so true. Yeah. And I think there's understanding and respecting, being with someone who just immediately understands. Mm-hmm. And not that the people in my life haven't. It's just, maybe you could testify to this in your 20s, you go through so many changes.
Yeah.
You meet so many people. You're also, even for someone like me who was recently in a really committed relationship, there's just things that through time you still are healing from.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's pretty neat.
It's even for me, we're older now, but if my husband died, I would be so devastated because he's been such a great partner for me.
Yeah.
He's been a lifelong partner, and he understands me and I understand him.
What are some things you feel like, since we're on the topic, that a partner should have? Or maybe it's not like they don't it's not like they don't have it, but like they can learn to have it when they're supporting their spouse who's an entrepreneur, especially a female.
Yeah.
Like, what are some qualities you feel like our audience can learn from that your husband indoctrinated for you to feel so supported?
Yeah. But he was really good because he was never the limelight. And after he quit his career, which he had a great career, and, you know, I always say he supported me so well. And, you know, I was very lucky to have his support, because I don't think I could have ran my business like I did.
Yeah, wow.
Like, I always feel sorry for single parents that don't have spouses. And, you know, for me, I don't know how I could have did that.
Yeah. It's like you had a team, even at home.
Yeah, I had a team. I had my mom, I had my nannies, I had my husband.
Yeah. Shout out to all of them.
Yeah.
You know, what's your husband's name?
Barry.
Barry, you're the man. He deserves that shout out, right? Yeah. And you know what? I think, who is it? Kamala Harris, the vice president of the United States of America?
Yes.
For someone like her, when I looked into her situation with her husband, you know, him being the first man, he immediately, or so it seemed, took down his status and his name of being a named partner for his law firm and recognized that he now needs to be more of a support for Kamala.
Well, that's great.
She's going through that shift. And I saw it, to your point, both of them, they had their own boats. They're both relentlessly like, look at these two powerhouses, right? Together, one a law firm owner, the other, you know, working her way up to presidency.
Yeah.
And when I heard that, I was touched because number one, I can't imagine that she's getting the support she deserves.
Yeah.
And number two, he himself, as a man, had to humbly make that decision and be like, you know what? Right now, with her direction in life that she's going, she's going to need a little bit more support. And I know and respect that the spotlight's not going on me.
Yeah.
It's going on her.
Yeah.
And I have to be okay with that.
Yeah.
You know, ego gone.
I think a lot of men are good with that today. I think because my husband has no ego. He totally supports everything I do.
That's awesome.
I've been very lucky to have him as a husband.
And I feel like we need more of that, to be honest, like from relationships in younger ages and stages.
Yeah.
Instead of trying to change your significant other to like how you want them to be, respectfully understand that they're going to be going through more changes and just be more of a listener. Be more of someone who, okay, maybe if you don't like it, express that, but don't prevent them from being so excited in doing something that they want to do. My mother, I always like how she puts it this way. She goes, Kenny, there's been times in your life where I know you're probably making a really, really silly decision, but it's only until you learn from your own mistake where you're going to actually respect it so much more.
Yeah. But my husband loved his flying career, and he quit his job for me. For our business.
Really?
Yeah, he did 15 years ago. So, you know, he sacrificed a lot for his career for me.
Big time. And that's for anyone. That's not an easy thing to do.
Yeah.
Barry.
Yeah.
Love the guy already. That's awesome. Yeah. I want us to now transition into fitness. You and I love it.
Yeah.
Have, from the beginning of when we started speaking with one another, recognize that that's a big thing you and me, you know, really mutually respect and love to have in our life. You ran the Boston Marathon. You've done more than several marathons in preparation for it to qualify. And you also just in general, like you have a whole huge home gym inside of your household. And you share with me how important it is for you and your husband to work out together. I just would love to hear, Eveline, like, how fitness and being immersed into staying fit for yourself, what that's done for you, how that's helped you bring more of your energy and bring more of you being present in the moment when you need to be. You know, how has it helped you in your life?
I'm very competitive, but I started working out with my husband probably when I met him in 1984 when he was still in the military. So then we worked out at the gym at the military base. And then we were very competitive, but I'm not competitive. I'm not a team player, but I am competitive in my own skin. So I compete against myself every day, and I push myself and push and push and push to the point where, you know, I love fitness, but I've never played on teams, because when I was 12 years old and when I was going to school, I never played on any teams. So I'm very competitive in myself. And when I started training for the Boston Marathon, Barry and I have always worked out together. So I was running probably 70 kilometers a week, and he was taking care of the kids when I was doing that, because I qualified. I started running in Hawaii, and then I had the Stanton families that were my customers. So then I went to the running room and I said,
Stanton is the owners of the running room, right?
Yeah. So I said, John, I want to run a marathon. He said, well, you need to train. So then I said, okay, I'll start the training right away. When's your next marathon training? So then I trained, and in my first marathon, I qualified for Boston. So I told everybody that beginning that I was going to qualify for the Boston Marathon.
And what did you need to do?
Everybody said to me, you shouldn't tell anybody that, because what if you didn't qualify? So that's all I needed to hear, is if you don't qualify, you know, it's going to be hard for you. And I said, well, I know already I'm going to run the Boston Marathon.
I love that. You're like, there's no if I am or if I'm not qualifying, because I'm doing it.
So then I qualified for the 99th anniversary of the Boston Marathon. And then I knew that the 100th anniversary was going to be a really big one. And we were already talking about it, because, so then I ran 5 more marathons, and I qualified probably four in the marathons that I qualified for Boston.
What does it take to qualify? Just out of curiosity.
I was probably 340 back then, because I ran when I was 40. I ran my first marathon when I was over 40.
So it took you at over 40 years old 3 hours and 40 minutes to complete it.
Yeah.
That is insane.
I did a marathon in 3:30 though.
I, at 25 years old, did it in 7 hours. I was broken. Like, I was just done. Yeah. And that was like 5-6 weeks of preparation, right? Like, it was,
but that's
gnarly.
Not enough.
It's not. Yeah, we were just so like ridiculous about it. But wow, that's amazing that you did that. Yeah. What needed to happen for your preparation of the marathon? I mean, the 70 kilometers a week, how did you spread that out?
Well, I used to run, at the end, we'd have to run 20 kilometers on Sundays. And then I would probably do 8 to 12 kilometers every day.
Wow. Nice. I like that. See, that's unique.
Yeah.
You do about the 8 every day, then run the longer distance into the weekend every single week. Pretty much a half marathon every week.
Yes.
Right? I'll kind of give you an idea of how that cross relates to the way we prepared for it. As I was starting to study more, Eveline, I recognize if I'm preparing for a marathon here, I need to tap into 3 different running experiences. Is number 1 is that short distance.
Yeah.
Right? Like let's work the aerobic threshold. Let's press the gas. Let's go fast. Yes. So like 5 to 10 kilometers, right? And then the second run was the anaerobic, right? That was, okay, let's go long distance, right? Let's just keep a nice, easy pace. Let's make sure we last. That was like the 5 kilometer increase every week, right? So like 15, then 20, then 25, then 30, right? Yes. We actually turned the 30 into the full marathon that day. Yeah. And anyway, we would have the middle one, which was right in between. Right? It was a 12 to 15. We kind of do a combination of both. Yeah. And I respectfully understand 3 times a week, it probably wasn't enough. If I look back at it now, preparing for a marathon, your perspective is nice because you have to get your reps in. Like the daily dose of you showing up probably helped so much.
Yeah. I used to run 7 days a week. And in the beginning I had shin splints, but you know what? I just backed off a little bit and then I got my mileage up. What got me to the Boston Marathon was hill repeats. I used to go run Emily Murphy Hill and the Grote Road, And I did hill repeats.
A lot of inclines.
All the time. And then I did mile repeats.
That's
and
awesome.
It got me a much faster runner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't imagine what was that experience like when you hit 340 or even, either one of the marathons you did, when you finished, how good did that feel?
It felt great. And, I was always trying to qualify my friends for the Boston Marathon. So I had my cousin and I said, so her and I were running together always in St. Albert. So I said, if you want to do the Boston Marathon, you got to run faster. You got to do hill repeats. So she would get mad at me and she'd stop. And I'd say, you're never going to get to the Boston Marathon doing that.
Yeah. You're like, you got to keep it going. Come on.
Yeah.
I love that you share that because there's so much of, as much as running is an independent sport and it's literally just you on your legs needing to just go. Yeah. I've experienced such a great sense of that level of community bonding and teamwork and someone leading the way through our running group where, Eveline, I shared with you, we've been running for farmers, the farmers protesting in India with everything so happening there. And, when we have 65 members in our group now, Eveline, there's been now over 10 people who have ran a half marathon where they thought they never would even be able to do that. And there's been now, I believe, 7 of us who ran a marathon. And it's like, all of this is mainly through one another, encouraging each other to obviously, first of all, hey, let's get up off our ass and let's run and let's do it as a group. And the second thing is having a purpose deeper than your own personal self-interest, right? Is recognizing that you're running for a bigger cause. I can't imagine what that felt like in Boston when you were there seeing other runners.
In my last marathon, I was trying to qualify a guy so he was broken and he was walking. I said, so I started with him in the first 2 or 3 minutes of the marathon. So then I said to him, you can't walk. You need to run. You can't stop. So he thanked me. He thanked me at the end of the marathon because I got him across the finish line. And then he sent me a wonderful card. And he said, thank you so much for... And he was from St. Albert. He was from McKinley, the funeral home.
Oh, and he was from back home here.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Did you even know that he was from here? Or was that just a complete coincidence?
It wasn't the Boston Marathon. It was the Edmonton Marathon.
Okay, that's fair.
Edmonton Marathon. So
yeah, no, what you did there is beautiful. It reminds me.
But it for me, I had run so many marathons. I could coach people to run marathons.
Big time. Yeah, you've done so many already, right? Yeah. I want to hear your advice on what things you'd share with people to prepare for a marathon. But even before I tell you that, I had a very similar experience where I was that guy in that scenario. Yeah. When I ran with Raj Dillon, he runs Pivotal Physiotherapy. He's a co-founder of it in Edmonton. Great friend of mine. I also consider him a mentor. Yeah. I'm with him and I'm with my friend. He's a strength coach, Mason Kenny. And we're at the final 6 kilometers. And it was, I'm sure as you know, the most painful last stretch.
It is. The 5 or 6 kilometers left are the hardest to do.
And
they're the hardest.
They're the hardest. No matter, and I'm glad you share that because even no matter how prepared you are, I feel like that's just for anybody. Yeah. And when Raj saw me, I was crawling, Eveline. I was in this brink of wanting to cry. Yeah. Where I couldn't feel my legs. I was on the floor, and he's I'm just tuning up the engine, trying to stretch, trying to get everything loose again, right? Fine tuning before we go on the racetrack. And he said something to me that was it's amazing just how much it lifted me up. He said, Kenny, you're not alone. I'm here. Mason's here. We feel the way you feel, no matter how freaking prepared anybody is. Yeah. You could be the world's greatest athlete. They feel exactly like how you feel in these last 5 kilometers. Yeah. So you can either stay down and you can keep crying about this, or we can get up. I'm going to give you a hand and we're going to finish this together. And every single step we take, it's going to hurt, but there's the finish line and it's close.
Yeah.
Oh man, I remember
Well, good
that.
for you for doing that.
No, thank you.
So when I was running with the running room, I used to run with men on Wednesday nights. So they were much faster runners. So when I went out with them, for a Wednesday night, I was my heart rate was at 180 on my watch.
Holy moly.
180. So then I just excused myself. I said, I'm just going to catch up to you guys. So I threw up alongside the road.
Oh no.
I threw up and then I caught up to them, but I pushed myself beyond the impossible that night. And when I got in my car, it was like an overwhelming feeling that I had went beyond the impossible. So it was kind of like a really funny feeling in my head, and I just said, "Oh, I did this," and I was running with an elite men of runners.
There's something to say about running with individuals whom, even though are at such a high level of endurance they carry and a high caliber of athleticism, I bet you probably just naturally ran faster than you ever thought you could because you're surrounding yourself around wolves, right?
Because they were wolves.
Yeah.
And I just said I'm going to keep up to them, and I don't care what it takes. I'm going to keep up to them. And when I finished that run that night, it was kind of like, wow, what did I do?
That's nuts.
I had pushed myself so hard and so much that, I went beyond what I thought was the impossible.
I'm glad you brought it back to that, because it reminded me of when we just first started talking about fitness. You said that no matter what, you don't compare yourself to others.
No.
And that, for me being a trainer, that resonates with me so much, Eveline, because I have clients that will ask me, "What did your other client get on this?
Yeah.
With our strength test, what about all the other people in this room? They could lift so much more than me."
Yeah.
And I have that same logic. I'm like, hey, you know what? You're better than you did last week.
Yeah.
You're better than you showed up yesterday. That's progress.
Yeah.
Everyone else has such a different goal, has such a different body type. Let's stop comparing ourselves to others. Yeah. And I find that is the beauty of what we find through fitness.
Yes.
Is you reach that point where you're like, yeah, you know what? I am better than last week.
Yeah.
And that's progress. And I find that I love that you shared that in the beginning, Eveline, because I want more people to recognize that we need to stop in all facets of life comparing ourselves to other people.
Yeah.
It will drive you mad.
But I've never compared businesses to myself either. I always say I'm going to show up and be the best. That's my whole goal.
All your mental space and energy is going towards that.
Yes.
Right?
It's not competing against somebody else that does their different businesses. I don't care about them. I really don't care. I want to be the best that I can be.
Wow.
And that's what I do in my fitness too.
No, I love that. No, totally.
Yeah.
I can tell.
Yeah.
What goes through your head when you run? I mean, all these long distances. Is it very therapeutic for you?
It is, because for me, when I was running, probably in the 90s, I always said, if I do a run, if I have a problem in my head, I can sort through it by the time I'm finished my run.
Yeah.
So, that was really therapeutic for me to think about what my problems were, what my issues were, and I always had a solution at the end of that run.
It's something that I recognized when you're running and you start having those thoughts come up, you can't run away from them. Especially now in a digital world where you think something, you don't want to think about it. Let's just open up our phone and distract ourselves with something else. Yeah. When you're running, you got nowhere else to go. Especially when you're doing long distances, you have to force yourself to work through that. And it's beautiful.
I see so many people on their phones when they're working out. And you know what? I try not to do that.
Good.
I try not to do that unless it's an emergency or whatever.
It defeats the purpose.
Yeah, it does.
Right? I think that's one of the biggest reasons why I actually enjoy jiu-jitsu so much, because put your phone away, You got no other distractions but needing to do this. And it
Yes.
brings you back to being present.
Yeah.
In a world we live in where everyone is wanting to figure out some sort of secret formula on how to do it.
Yeah.
Well, it's because as a society, we started to let ourselves, or we forced ourselves to do 2, 3, 4, 5 things at once.
Yeah.
And we need to hone in on practicing more of less time on phone, or okay,
Yes.
if we're on our phone, then you're on the phone.
Yes.
As opposed to pretending like
Yeah.
you're having a conversation. And
Yeah.
I think that's a beautiful part about podcasting.
Yeah.
Is never once have I thought, oh yeah, I mean, while the guest is talking, I'll
Yeah.
just,
Yeah.
check it.
Yeah.
I mean, it defeats the whole purpose.
No, it does.
Of like
Yeah.
connecting with somebody.
But even when I'm in my salons, I always leave my phone in the office or wherever, because I don't want to be on my phone in the salon.
Mm-hmm.
And I always tell my staff, like, if you're on your phone, that's very disrespectful to the customer.
Big time. It is. It really is.
Yeah.
I'm glad you
need
said
to
that.
engage with them, and you need to pay attention to them. They're the customer, and they deserve more than that.
Totally.
Yeah.
Of course. I agree. What would be, let's say, any tips you have for someone? Again, we have younger audience members, and it might be for their parents.
Yeah.
Even someone who, let's say, is 40 years old and older, and they're listening to this. They may not have had the experience you have through fitness always being there.
Yeah.
Maybe they feel like they want to do it, but there's this voice inside their head that says it's too late.
Yeah.
And I hear a lot of that in the industry of like,
But
why
it's never
bother
too
starting?
late. Like,
exactly.
So my both sons are very fitness for everything, and
Nice.
they're very healthy eaters, and they keep me on track, and they say, "Mom, what did you eat today? What did you work out? What did you do?"
Yeah, they're on it.
So they're
accountability
on it.
coaches,
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. So they're kind of my coaches, and
Love
they
it.
keep me straight. But I've been so lucky that I've had my husband, and we've worked out. So I get on the bike, he works out on the weights, and then we switch.
Nice.
Yeah. So then we walk 10 to 14 or 16 kilometers a night.
Wow.
Yeah.
Really? Oh,
Yeah.
a great way to end off the day together too,
it
right?
is. It is. So we do everything together. And this summer, when we were in Kelowna, we cycled in 2.5 months, 4,000 kilometers.
Wow. Holy, in the span of how much time?
2.5 months.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's nuts.
Yeah.
You guys must have been just on your bikes the whole time?
we walked 1,000 kilometers too.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
See? No, that is good.
So, we had time there and we weren't working, so we would cycle sometimes 100 kilometers.
Well, there's two things that I hear there when you answer my question is, number one, find someone to report to. It could be a friend, it could be a
Yes.
coach,
Yeah.
right? Like the
Yeah.
idea in investing in someone who is tracking your
Yeah.
progress and
Yeah.
you're able to share that progress with them. Number two is don't do it alone.
Yeah.
Right? Bring
No.
on your spouse, bring on a friend,
Absolutely.
bring on your
Yeah.
sibling.
But for Barry and I, we're pretty competitive. So I'm not going to stay behind him. Sometimes I would pass him. He always calls me Maggie because one time when we were in Kelowna, there was a racing team behind me, and we passed them, and then they were coming behind me, and they said, go Maggie, pass her. So I thought, there is no way in hell they're going to pass me.
Yeah.
So I put my body in gear, and I didn't pass them, but I was ahead of them. So I went up that hill, and they didn't pass me.
That's awesome.
So Barry so every time I walk fast and I'm trying to pass somebody on a trail, he says,
Go, Maggie.
Is Maggie coming?
Who is Maggie's name again? Is Maggie like from that story? How did that name get
Yes, yes.
like how was that name called upon again?
No, so somebody was saying behind me,
Yeah.
Go Maggie,
Go Maggie, yeah,
go
yeah,
Maggie.
yeah.
And I said, no, they're not going to pass me.
Yeah.
And Barry knew they weren't going to pass me.
I love
so
that.
I'm very competitive.
Yes.
So when somebody comes behind me and
Go Maggie.
I was running, I would run faster, and it would be good for me because I would run run faster. So I'm very competitive.
Oh
in that
yeah.
way.
It's fun when you recognize like how that translates over into other aspects of life too, right? It just goes back to recognizing like I'm not going to let anyone else be in the front. I want that spot. That's where I belong.
Me too.
Right?
Me too.
And I felt like that even in the run club where you know, there's a gentleman by the name of Sonny Brar who also has contributed upwards of like $6,000 towards our fundraising initiative for farmers.
Oh, that's so great.
And I remember like just because he's an avid runner and he would be leading the pack even to this day, right? And I told myself when I started running, Eveline, I was like, one day I'm going to be at the front with him. I'm not as fast, but I'm going to keep showing up. I'm going to be right there. And I also felt like I see him at the top and I just feel like, okay, I got to chase. And it felt so good to eventually like have my endurance get to a point where I was able to be right by his side. And him and I, we share those moments and we bond over it where we're like, you know what? It's like kind of like that Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant-esque experience where it's like, hey, like we're both competitive with one another. We admit it, but
competitiveness is good.
It's loving. Yeah. It's like, you know what? We both want to be here. Like he's going fast. He recognizes I'm going to press a little bit harder and vice versa. Right.
So I when I was running my marathons, I lost a little girl between my two boys. So I was running then, but you know, it was not what caused it. So then I had to do a stillbirth.
Oh no.
So I went to the hospital and my doctor said to me, like, you're so good with this. He said, you've got a really clear mind and you're not crying and you're not upset.
Yeah.
And I just said, you know, if you didn't notice, there was a wheelchair paraplegic on the elevator with us, and he didn't notice it. And I said, you know, that's always been my thing. I said, when I see somebody in a wheelchair, you know, it's always been my thing to not want to be there. So, you know, I always say my life is great. My life is great because I'm not in a wheelchair.
It could be worse.
Yeah, it could be worse.
Yeah.
So then I started running right after I had that stillborn. And, you know, for me, it was really good because I dealt with that. And, you know, it was really good for me to run.
Yeah.
So then when I had my last son, I ran through my whole pregnancy. I ran 7 kilometers a day. And,
while you were pregnant during that whole time?
And I was out here and I was holding my stomach when I was running and everybody on the trails were saying, when is that baby due? And you know, I had the easiest delivery. I had probably a 2-hour delivery.
Wow.
Yeah. And it was my easiest delivery. And then I left the next morning.
How much of, depending on doctors' recommendations and the scientific based evidence, how much of it, from your knowledge, translates over to the running helping make a smoother pregnancy happen? Did they share any of that with you, or
no? A lot of people were against it because it was in 1994.
Yeah. They're like, "Are you crazy? You should be resting." Right?
Yeah. So anyway, I always say, I remember my parents saying, "Oh, the women used to have their babies in the field and then give birth."
Yeah. Be like, if I have it while I'm running, then it is what it is.
Me too. Yeah. So anyway, I ran through till the day he was delivered. I ran the morning of the day that he was delivered.
Please tell me he's like an avid runner and he loves it.
He is an avid runner. He's cyclist and
like super into
climber.
It. Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
That is awesome. I appreciate you sharing that too.
But because when you do fitness all your life, your kids become like that.
Oh, they're like, what is it? What do they say? Like when they mirror you.
Yeah.
You know, kids are going to do it whether you inadvertently or advertently are showcasing you know, how to be a good Samaritan, so to speak. Like they just become copycats.
Yes,
and I find a lot of parents who I'm now friends with, they share that with me. They're like, man, like I'm not even saying anything to my kid, and like he's copying my actions, right? Or catches you saying something you didn't even realize you said in front of him or her, right?
Yeah. But even my president, so the two boys are very active, and they work out all the time, and they live a really great lifestyle.
Yeah.
So I'm so happy that her youngest son is in jitsu.
Oh, jiu-jitsu. Yeah. Oh, the youngest son is?
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. There you go.
So anyway, the other one's a hockey player, and he works out all the time, every day. But that's great training for them.
Oh, it's so good.
And for me, my fitness has helped my business because I'm challenged everywhere.
I love that. I think that's the important bridge that we need to accept in recognizing that Eveline Charles, Spa and Salon, and the Academy, a part of why it's where it is today, and the way it's been able to groove through all the changes through the economy we've been living through for decades upon decades, and even just through your business experience translates over in how you've challenged yourself physically, and the changes that were made with your body and the changes you made mentally. It's so therapeutic, right? Like when you mentioned, Eveline, how you were running through a moment in your life where very unfortunately, you went through that miscarriage, and it's like,
but for me, my running was really good. And, I cleared my head from that.
And that's what it is.
Yeah.
I encourage anyone to do it. Because what's funny with me? Going back to our,
But even in your relationship, when you broke up, I bet you...
it helped so much. You read my mind.
It does,
You read my mind. Yeah. It cleared my head. It made me comfortable with being in my own environment again. Mm-hmm. To this day, my friends tell me, aren't you ever by yourself? And I'm like, guys, when I run, I'm by myself.
Yes.
I got the headphones in. I'm comfortable in my own skin. Yeah. And there's something I was going to share about that where I'm forgetting it now. I hope it comes to me. But the reality is when you run, and I was going to share this. I never liked running. I never did. I purposely shied away from it. Again, back to my personality of my hyperactive attention and me constantly wanting to do different things. I looked at running like, why do I want to do the same thing for that long? And I'm sure you get other people who push back from runners tell the same thing to you. Yeah. But it's getting comfortable with being uncomfortable. Yes. That was like a bucket list thing I had in the second lockdown for me, Eveline, when I said, you know what? I've never done a marathon. I'm going to do it. Because guess what? One, it's the only option right now. Yes. Gyms are closing. Yeah. But two, I need to get out in the cold and get uncomfortable and feel miserable. Yeah. And at the time when I was already feeling that way, it was, the catch-22 was, it made me feel better. Yeah. It made me get out of that dark hole of it's okay. Now you're rebuilding, you're restructuring yourself. And I fell in love with running through the process.
I know. But, it challenges you, and it keeps challenging you. And you try to do a faster run, faster this, faster that. For me, it was very challenging, and it was good for me. It was really good for me.
I love that.
Yeah.
We got to go for a run.
When I was locked down, for me, because I used to run with my husband, but he's a tall guy, and his knees are not very good, so he gets achy knees. So then we started walking, but I never want to lose my running. I never want to lose it, because for me it's my sanity.
No, it's good. So you're still running to this day then?
Yeah, I am, but not as fast as I used to. But I wanna take it up again, and I try to take it up every year.
Nice.
Every year. I haven't run for probably a year now.
Okay, there you go. It's been some time.
Yeah.
Well, the snow's melting, and I heard the city has a new running club that I'm a part of. That I'd love to. Yeah. Love to have you.
So I'll practice, and then I'll come to you.
Yeah, no, exactly. Once you feel ready,
I need to be ready.
Yeah, and that's fair. I didn't even ask you. I started asking runners this now. Is do you prefer to run on your own, or do you like running in a group?
I love my long runs. So I used to run with the running room for 4 hours.
Yeah.
And then I love running on my own too. I love putting my headphones on, and I love love doing that.
It's nice when you run and you don't necessarily know the route and you're like, I'm just going to get lost. Yeah. And I'll be honest, I forgot to mention that when I've traveled in the past, I do enjoy running because you're seeing different things and, you know, you're getting lost in the adventure of seeing what's out there, right?
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
So I used to travel a lot, and I used to run all over the place. New York, Chicago. Nice. I would run and I would explore the city.
Yeah. One of my favorite runs I did, it was a sunset in Morocco. And I was in Marrakesh, and I was on the beach, and I was just seeing the sun go down. I had my music on. It was when Kanye West put out one of his new albums at the time. And I was like, again, for me, music is a big tie-in. So I'll tie in brand new music with running, new locations. So there's a theme for it. And it's just, I'm running on the beach, and I felt like I didn't want to stop. I'm like, I'm going until I get to the very end of this beach, and it's just beautiful.
I think I would have been happy there too.
Yeah. You would have been all over it, right? No, that's awesome. Yeah. As we conclude, Eveline, I just want to take a second to acknowledge just how, you know, full your heart is. You know, I can tell that you are such a loving human being. You clearly give it your all in everything you do, you know, from the conversations you have with someone one-on-one to the business, to your fitness, to your health, to the growth of all of that, you know, and it's just amazing.
But I love life so much.
Yeah.
I live bigger than life. I've always lived that. Yeah. And, you know, I'm happy to be alive every day, you know, and I'm 67 now, and, you know.
You're like a day over 35.
Thank you. But, you know, because.
It's amazing.
As you age, if you do a lot of fitness, you're going to age way better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally.
You are. Yeah.
I have a client.
Because I have no aches and pains. I you know, and a lot of people that are younger than me, I see them walking and I go, oh, they probably didn't work out when they were young.
Yeah, or you can tell, right? And that everyone deserves to be living a pain-free lifestyle, physically and mentally, right? And a lot of that, sometimes physical turns into mental and vice versa. And to your point, right? Like you start to really feel the benefits of what, you know, you get out of life when you do, you know, you're giving your body that you live in the love it deserves, the attention it needs.
I agree.
It's crazy how we will replace that with money we spend on materialistic objects, which, hey, there's nothing wrong with that, but feed your body first. Yeah. Right? Put the good nutrients you need to feed it. Learn what you should feed it. Yeah. Get a blood test done. See what you need more of.
Absolutely.
Right? And there's other elements of like, sweat. Yeah. Like we live inside of this body of ours. Why are we not and I wish we looked at it more like that. Instead of people feeling like, I don't need to work out. Right? And it's like, well then why you wonder why you're so tired all the time.
I have friends that have never worked out and they have sore knees and they have sore hips.
Yeah.
And they have this. It's because they didn't exercise.
Exactly. Yeah. It's like when your home needs renovations and your car needs a tune-up, are you getting it done at that time? Or are you just like, forget about it? How long is it going to last for, right?
No, it's not going to last.
Yeah. No, I love that, Eveline.
Yeah.
I want to take it on this note is, you know, we ask every single one of our guests this, and I'm actually very excited for your answer, is what do you feel like, in your opinion, it takes for someone to take that step forward to make it to the second floor? And what I mean by that is, you know, with everything we talk about, we bring on guests who inspire, who have survived hardships, who thrive in their business space, and who also, they keep the good vibes going, right? You're someone who emulates that, where you have from what it seems, a good balance of filling your own cup, but also growing your business. Yeah. So for any of our listeners listening out there, they want to learn from you, Eveline. What will it take for them to make it to their version of the second floor?
I always say, dream big, think big, but walk your talk. Because so many people don't walk their talk. You know, if you're going to dream big and think big, then you need to do the work.
That's so true. It doesn't just end at, I'm going to be a millionaire and it's going to happen one day. It's like, well, how are you going to get there?
Yeah, exactly.
That's
so
awesome.
you need a plan, and you need to focus on your plan. So for me, I've always been a goal keeper, and I I always publicize my goals. So if I'm going to do another business, I'm going to publicize it, and then I'm going to publicize everything I do because it keeps me accountable. Keeps me accountable.
And that's how I feel a lot about my need to start being more vulnerable on the show, because it's sharing aspects of my life that need to be shared and addressed, but also share the accomplishments, right? Utilizing social media, share the wins and the losses, and accept that it's just a part of our journey.
Yes.
You know?
But for me, I'm never afraid of failure. I've never been afraid of failure, but I'm not going to fail.
I love that. It's never happening. Not on my watch, not on your watch. That's the case.
No.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, you have heard from literally the one and the only Eveline Charles. And I sure enough learned a lot from this conversation, Eveline, and I can imagine and bet that so many of our guests have as well. Just to end it off, I'd like to just see if there's anything else you want to share with our audience.
I just want to share, you're such a great interview, and you and I are very similar.
Yeah, I can tell.
Very similar.
I learned that about us sitting back.
And I learned a lot from you too today.
Thank you. That means a lot, Eveline. And I hope that, it's funny because I hope people understand that you and I had one chat before this, but I already feel like through this one that we're going to be friends.
We're going to be friends for a long time.
I agree. I know it.
I feel that too. Yeah.
Thank you, Eveline. Guys, if you enjoyed listening to this, please share this episode. Please go ahead and check out the Shopify website to purchase Eveline Charles' brand new hand sanitizer. Okay, that's the best in the market in the world. And please, if you need a haircut, go to the one and only Eveline Charles Spa and Salon in West Edmonton Mall if you're in Edmonton, or look up the nearest one close to you. Yeah. There it is. Thank you. That's a wrap.
The Second Floor Podcast is a member of the Alberta Podcast Network, locally grown and community supported.